Hi, everyone. Megan here from Romance by the Book with the lovely Marielle. And today our special guest is our August Book of the Month author, Sophie Jordan. We read The Duke Goes Down for this month, and it was so great. So thank you for being here, Sophie.
I'm having a good time. I've had a good time in our little warm-up chat. Now I'm talking with you though.
So I guess we can dive in with what I thought was a great question from our friend Addie Yoder. And she wanted to know, Perry lost his title and grew into that as opposed to gaining one and figuring that out, which is how a lot of these historical romances roll. So where did that idea come from? What made you want to do it that way?
I don't know. I feel like my evolution as a historical romance writer is just, even though I'm writing in a different time era, like I want to write real. I want it to be real. Sometimes you lose things in life and you don't get them back. You don't get them back. You know, he lost his dukedom. He suddenly didn't find out he was going to be, oh, look, you're an earl, or you're going to, no, sometimes that's just the way it works. Right. Sorry, my husband just got home. They're just going to bark for a second and treat him like he's a stranger. And then,
they're like, oh, it's you.
Oh, wait, I know you. You feed me. So yeah, no, I just really appreciate writing things that feel realistic in that sense. And also I love writing that, you lost your dukedom, you lost, but actually that can be the best thing that ever happened to a person, losing what they thought they valued most in the world and then finding out what they gained is something, better, or they gained something.
Yeah, right.
Well, and for Perry, it was kind of like what made him special and what made him, I don't know if wanted is the right word, but it was like what he brought to his relationships and his, it was like his claim to fame. And now he was like, well, now it's just me.
Figure out something else.
Just like everybody else trying to figure it out,
I also had kind of a similar question because this is a bit of a different setting too for like Regency romance. A lot of them are set kind of ballroom with the aristocracy as kind of like the center. And in this one, it seemed more, it kind of like a small town setting, but you ended up with the aristocracy as the kind of the side characters and the main people being regular folks. So what made you decide to do that, kind of flip the script?
I don't know. I guess, I've written many a ballroom and many a London drawing room, and I probably still will, but the thing is, that was such a small percentage of people, right? At that time, like everybody, there's this whole other multiple classes of people after that, and not even just really poor people, can I have some more, sir? It's not all that either, Right. There was a whole like other class, working class people who were kind of, not rich, not poor, but, comfortable. And I guess I just wanted to feature that too. Yet also, very aware that there's this, there is this level of aristocrats, and, a lot of villages have the big house on the hill. I kind of wanted to feature that whole community where, yes, there's the big duke on the hill, and then there's a whole other community around them with people from varying classes. So I wanted to write this series kind of featuring all of that. Yes, you'll see the duke on the hill, and yes, there's people in the community that are rich and kind of, this is their kingdom too, with the Blankenship family, and then there's kind of in the middle, and the Duke Goes Down, my heroine was not rich or wealthy, but certainly as the vicar's daughter in a position of respect, that her family growing up was invited up to the house on the hill with the Duke, because, her father was the vicar and respected and lauded for his, intelligence, the poor vicar, but,
right.
And you'll see that, you'll have, her friend who's, book 2 is Mercy, and really just, she's a farmer. Her family, they own a big plot of land, and they make their they're certainly not poor either. And then there's I'm excited the third book will be my Lady Blacksmith book.
Nice.
I can't
That's
wait for her.
exciting.
She seems like she's going to be a fun character.
I think there's room for all these stories, right? There's so many stories you can tell in Regency or Victorian England, and they're not all about the Duke and the Lady, you know, or the heiress. You know, there's so many different stories to be told. And really at this point, I mean, I'm approaching, I think, close to 30 historicals. I got to write different stories. So I still want to keep writing them. You know what I mean? I can't write the same story, right? So I don't get tired of it and burn out. So I'm looking for new stories, I guess.
Did you find that there were any challenges to kind of changing the setting up a little bit?
I thought these communities, and I guess it's rural, it's out in the country, but it's not, I didn't want to make this feel like a tiny village. Like I wanted it to feel like it's getting a little more metropolitan. Like, so I don't think it was a challenge necessarily, but I wanted to reflect diversity in that community, because there certainly would be people living in this community, just like there were people living in London, you know, secondary characters, or, you know, maybe people of, you know, different creeds and different races, and that were immigrants that might've lived in this town. I tried to like think about that when I'm coloring this whole community. Again, I don't know if it was a challenge, but it's definitely something now that I think about it as a writer that I did not spend enough time thinking about that 10 years ago, you know, how I populated the people in my books.
You definitely introduced us to a lot of people, and I thought that they, you know, they all had like a place in the community, but they were all kind of like, they were all different. You said you had like a farmer. We met the lady blacksmith. We met yeah and just am like, she is strong, sturdy.
I know, I have like this vision of like a Brigitte Nielsen type character, you know,
like Brienne from Game of Thrones. That's who I was picturing.
Like
that's what I was thinking too.
Right, you know, somebody who definitely would have been a shield maiden, you know.
Right, that's awesome.
But then we also met Mr. Oh shoot, I'm gonna forget his name. Peshier. Yeah,
You'll have to tell me too, because
it wasn't Patel.
Was it Mr. Gupta?
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm making a completely new name.
It was the bathhouse.
Right. Yeah.
I stumbled upon something, and I don't have it in front of me, and I should have pulled it up. So he was kind of loosely based off. I found there was a real live person. He was an immigrant from India, and he started bathhouses all around different parts of England, and I'm like, well, that's cool. And again, that's not something I ever thought about. First of all, I never thought about really bathhouses. Like, of course, going through a pandemic, I think I was editing that. I'm like, oh, this bathhouse, there's so much spread in this bathhouse.
You're like, is this steamy? Oh no.
There's just people passing smallpox and everything through this bathhouse. But yeah, there were certainly, you know, a lot of businesses and immigrant owned businesses. So yeah, I introduced Mr. Gupta, and I thought to myself, well, you know, and he's a learned man, and he would get along with my vicar, and that, you know, they share books, and so I wanted to like kind of sprinkle the world in reality.
Well, it was cool to see Perry, even though like that land, he probably owned most of it and had grown up in that area. It was like he was discovering that place for the first time, or maybe the second time. I don't know, but we
like
definitely
he knew about it but didn't appreciate it before, and now he's actually a part of it.
So like as an aristocrat, he'd spent all his time obviously in London with everyone, and I'm like, but I see him more now staying in the place where he can succeed as a average person, I guess. You know, because I think I talked about it a minute. He knows he could probably have stayed in London, or like jumped from the charity of those who still were his friend, you know, from house to house party. Probably he could have done that.
Oh, here comes my pup. Sorry.
But I mean, he had too much pride in him to do that. He's like, I'm going to stay here. Well, in the beginning, he's like, I'm going to find an heiress. Because, you know, at the time, that wouldn't have felt like, in his mind, it wouldn't have felt wrong. People made arrangements in marriage for benefit all the time. But
I mean, I think people still make those kind of calculations about like the lifestyle that they want to lead and like what kind of marriage is gonna,
true.
lead you there. But I thought it was pretty interesting the way that his goal at first was to kind of stick as close to his former life as possible.
Right.
But then he had all these ideas about like how he could improve certain things in the town, or like it was things where it was like his brain was already like switching gears before he really knew it. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how
I think he was destined to be an entrepreneur, like that was in him. And maybe he'd had those ideas, like you said, when he was an aristocrat, but there was no need, right? There was no need that he started a business or did anything. Not even that, it would have been frowned upon. Right?
Yeah.
But then suddenly he's at a place in his life where not only can he do this, maybe he should, like why not? Nothing, I don't know. I think in a way the trappings of aristocracy, not, we know for a long time they can be somewhat of a prison for women, but maybe even for the men too.
Yeah. His mom was definitely a piece of work. And I did feel like she had very like strong opinions about how he needed to lead his life. And I feel like probably when he had the title, those ideas would have even held more weight. Yeah. Because it was very like, no, that he had a duty to like the title and his family and all of that.
Yeah.
Even when he lost his title and it was all like, oh no, what would
this do to your sister? Her. And he's like, you like you did this to me and your woe is me, like how dare.
It's happening to me, and you still at least are the doubt. You're still like, you have your title and your widow's portion and
your house.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Oh goodness. So
she really was funny with that whole like funny. I might be ruined. He's like
oh gosh. That's funny. So
I like writing, I don't know. I do enjoy writing family situations, family members. In this case, I guess it was his mother. You never saw his sister on the page. She was settled and successful.
She sounded terrible, so that's fine.
She was happily living her life, right, with her Earl husband, but and the mother is
pushing children in the ponds.
No. I know. That's so rude.
Oh yeah, wait, we did see her on the page when she was.
We only see her when she's a kid, and she sounded terrible.
And it's something I keep up. Like, so when the rake gets ravished, I'm not really giving away. That's the second book coming, and it's Mercy's story, and I'm not really giving anything away because the summary is up. But her brother loses the whole farm in a poker card game. So she's like, you're going to get introduced to her brother, and Marielle, you're going to think he's a piece of work. He was fun to write. I mean, like the notes from my editor on the margins were like, I hate him so much. Like cursing and like, oh my God. And,
I mean, just from the blurb, I think Megan and I had a conversation.
Well, even before that, like the way she talks about him, the way Mercy talks about him, like she's doing everything, even though it's technically his farm and his house and his everything. And he's just like la-di-da.
Yeah, he's off living his life and she's.
Well, he's like, I'm fancy. I'm too fancy for this farm life. And she's like, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just stay here then.
But this farm life is funding you. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know. I guess I write him, like my editor was like, he's so terrible. But at the same time, I think he's, again, real. Like, I think he is the victim of his life in some way too, right? He's like, oh, woe is me. I want more than this. I need more than this. He thinks he can go to card games and hang with the big boys who have like a limitless money, but he can't.
He can't do that.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Perry and Imogen's past. They've obviously known each other since they were kids. They've never gotten along. How did you decide to tell about their past? Did you always want to do it like in a flashback style, or did you think about other ways?
I didn't know I was going to do that till I started writing it. And I'm like, I enjoy books that do kind of the time flipping. And I don't know, those books feel bigger to me because you see you get more than a line. I mean, we all know those who write or in the writing game also write show, don't tell. So, so I never spend a lot of time. You want to reveal their backstory, but you don't spend a lot of time talking about it. It's like you drop a sentence here or there. And I was like, well, how fun is it to like really show it though in these, you know, time hops? So I hope people like that. I think maybe you either like it or you don't when books do that. Like I've read, you know, Sarah McLean's, I've read a lot of historicals that do it. You know, Sherry Thomas has done it. I enjoy those time lapses. So I thought, I'm going to show her.
I think it was smart. It was from her point of view because you felt how she felt in those moments. And so then you were like, wow, he is a jerk or whatever you were meant to feel in that point. But I think seeing that from his point of view would have been super interesting too.
Yeah, that's true. Because I didn't want, it wasn't until the book came out that certain people were like, oh, enemies to lovers. And I'm like, is it? I never sat down writing this book saying it's an enemies to lovers because they had this friction in their past when they were children. That was their past. And really it was just, you know, it was their parents were drawn to each other. And you know how that is though. We've all had those friends of our parents that the parents love each other. So you're stuck hanging out with the other kids and maybe you get along with them or maybe you don't.
Or maybe you do for a while and then you don't want to anymore, but you don't have a choice.
You know, or maybe you did when you were real little, but then y'all grew into different people and you're like, me in high school is so not like this other girl in high school. We're different people here, but we're still on this family trip because our parents like each other, you know? So it was that. It wasn't even that. And I didn't want to make him like evil, horrible kid. I was like, he was just a whatever, 11-year-old boy who didn't really want to be spending his day with this girl that his parents forcing on him. And
he probably didn't have to do much that he didn't want to do being the heir also. So that made it even more bad for him.
Yeah, I always thought that it was like enemies to lovers, like from Imogen's point of view. But from Perry's point of view, he was just kind of like, huh, here's this kid. Like, I don't think
that was my childhood, and you were there for some of it. Like, I think absolutely. And that's how it maybe is a lot sometimes for boys and men. Like, I don't know, not to be gender stereotyping, but yeah, like as women, we're like, oh, he was awful. I hated him so much. And
because this happened on this day and I still think about it. Yeah.
He's like, I don't even remember that day. You know?
He's like, oh yeah, I guess that happened. Like, sorry.
I remember that. I had no idea, you know, as usual, right? No idea the impact it left on you, but
well, I think
especially because he was older. Sorry,
no, you're fine. I was like, there was a moment where he said something about how he like never really thought about her. And it's clear that that's like dagger. Yeah.
Right.
He's like, just like,
you know, isn't that indifference being worse than hate? Like she almost wished he hated her or something. Like indifference is like,
yeah. Like you don't matter to him at all. And meanwhile, you're like holding a serious grudge. Well, and then later, I think he thinks more about like when she's bringing up their past and he thinks about the things that happened, then he's like, oh, I guess I am sorry that I acted like that. But like to him, it was just like another day.
I guess that's why I think you know, I mean, I'm not an author who goes looking for reviews, but sometimes I get tagged and stuff and I read it. And I've been in the game long enough where I don't wig out. It doesn't send me in a spiral, but it often lets me think about my craft and the writing. And I don't mind that. And someone was like, I thought there'd be a bigger grovel from him. And I was like, oh, well, I get readers love the grovel. There's whole posts on it, right? They love the grovel. But again, I guess I never thought that he thought it was that big of a deal where the grovel would have been a huge thing. And honestly, I don't think in a way she was as crippled about it all either, you know, like,
I mean, she did some pretty bad stuff to him too. And I don't like, she didn't really,
I think they were pretty even by the time it was all said and done. Yeah.
I don't think she ever apologized really either. No. We're like, we just did this crap to each other.
Let's just be done now. Yeah.
She was a little Emma-ish, you know, like, let me get in here and, you know, wreak some damage and then be like surprised.
Right.
Maybe I should go undo some of this if I can later.
Well, and I think I had some when I was coming up with the ideas, you know, because she wants to sabotage his efforts to find an heiress. And I was like, she's going to do this by spreading rumors, and she's in a unique position where she can very successful. It does not take much for her to get a rumor rolling. And I don't even remember. I think I had some rumors that were really bad, and I was like, I was asking one of my writer friends, or maybe even my editor, but I was like, I was going to do this rumor, but they were like, oh, that would be really bad and hard to forgive her for if she'd, and I can't even remember now what some of them were, but they were worse than the rumors that I did. Okay. And they were, and one of my friends was like, and I think it was Louisa who did the naughty Brits with me. She was like, make them kind of funny, like don't make them too
like he's bald, not that he's something terrible. Yeah.
And I thought it was so true and funny how like even a devastating rumor, which I didn't do anything too devastating, but it galls her to realize he can just roll with them. Like they don't even ruin him the way they would ruin a woman. And that's just, you know.
She did seem to do ones that would like, they like pricked his pride, but it's more of the kind of stuff where if he was a woman and you were like, oh, she's
bald and wears a wig or whatever.
Or like she can't control her like
flatulence.
That, you know, it might be like, oh, never mind. You're ousted from society forever. Right. But he's just like, I'll just talk to the dad. It's fine.
Which was so funny because like today, right? Like if a female was found to have, you know, chronic flatulence and all these things, you know, like maybe the hero or the man in this case, he's not heroic, right? Let's not say that. He'd be like, yeah, I'm going to move on and find a different heroes for sure. But like, yeah. I mean, some of these girls were they were at the mercy and whim of their father, their guardian, right? So
well, and he was good looking, and it was to me interesting to read about somebody who is in a situation because he had this like reputation and people were used to seeing him a particular way, so he could kind of slide by with that, like just on the idea that they had always thought of him as the Duke. So even though he wasn't the Duke, they still thought of him that way. And Imogen, I feel like it bothered her so much.
She's constantly reminding people, he's not the Duke anymore, excuse you, basically. And everybody just kept thinking like, oh, well, it's because there wasn't a new one yet. So they didn't have this other person to like compare him to. And they were all thinking like, oh, well, maybe once there's a new Duke, then we won't think of him that way anymore or whatever. So that was really interesting, how that all played out for sure.
Are we gonna see, because by the time this book ends, I guess, spoilers, I mean, they're looking for a Duke. I guess that's not a spoiler, but I mean, they're looking for
I think by towards the end he was supposed to be coming, like they had already, like he was en route or whatever.
That's a good title, Marielle. I might submit that for like the third or fourth, for the fourth book, looking for a Duke.
Looking for a Duke.
Sort of what's happening. I mean, they're trying to track down the correct heir, and I think I reveal in the epilogue of The Duke Goes Down, he's there and established, right? But that's all I give you.
Yeah, so at some point they're gonna find.
If the rake gets ravished, the new Duke is there, so he's there. And then in the third book, I mean, really everything. I don't normally, a lot of my series center around a group of people, maybe they're friends, maybe they're siblings, maybe they're surrounding, you know, my Penwick School of Virtuous Girls all went to school together. But this is the first series where I really kind of there is this arching, like, who's the Duke? Like from book one, who's the Duke? Then book two.
There's like a series arc, almost like a storyline that goes through.
But there's a twist coming about the Duke. So you meet the Duke in book 2. There's a twist in book 3, and then there's like a resolution to the Duke twist in book 4. And I've never done anything like that, so that's kind of
that's going to be fun.
That's cool. So that actually leads to my next question, which was about, do you sketch out the entire series up front, or do you just do it book by book? And when you did this one, I know you've said before it was kind of all about the heroines being
kind of
in a more masculine type of jobs for the
like
day.
Extraordinary, ordinary females. like I wanted them to be like everyday women, but women who also have some autonomy in their life. But also at the same time, they're still fighting. The struggle's real. Like they are living in an era where women don't have autonomy. So like, and I talk, Imogen is very aware that like her life, her situation could change in a heartbeat. She has respect and position now, but that could be gone the minute something happens to her father.
Right.
And then the next book, again, she's a woman in charge of this farm and this property and kind of seen as knowledgeable. But then she's at the mercy of her brother and his mistakes, how they ripple through for her. And then the third book, The Lady Blacksmith, I mean, same thing. Really, it's the same thing. It's like, it's a woman with power and authority, but they're all still in a man's world.
Right.
So the fourth book, though, I kind of had a couple heroine. Like when I started this series, I wasn't 100% sure if the fourth book was going to be the widow baroness or the housekeeper of the Dukes.
Right.
We made her at
her
the
in
end,
book one.
yeah.
Right. So I'm still leaning more toward the housekeeper now, but we'll see. So the fourth one's a little fluid still for me, but I knew I was going to have the Lady Blacksmith, and I knew I was going to have Mercy, the Lady Farmer. I mean, it's sort of like the Lady Vicar, the Lady Farmer, the Lady Blacksmith, like working women. But and then I did know I was trying to fit this. It's not really a mystery, but the thing with the Duke is this overall, who's, where's Waldo kind of thing,
right.
overarching the four books. And so it does feel like it's going to be kind of finished in the fourth, and then it's not going to turn into my Rogue File series. I just kept going. I didn't really I introduced another character people seem to like and I like, so I'll do that character. But I feel like The Rake Gets Ravished should be up soon. I turned in it should be up soon on Idlewist, and I'm curious once all of y'all start reading the arc of it, if you're gonna want a different character, a side character in The Rake Gets Ravished is suddenly someone y'all want to have a book for, because then that could alter my plans for book 4.
Right. That's so cool. I always think about Katie Robert always jokes about no side character left behind. It's kind of like her thing. Like she always ends up writing stories for her side characters because she loves them so much, and then everybody else loves them so much. So
I get emails all the time about is it Edith? No, Eden. And then I get emails all the time about secondary characters in earlier series that I didn't really intend to have a book, but I featured them enough to where I still get emails because someone just now finished that book and they are asking. And I was like, who's that character again? It's like, wait, it's always
like, I guess that means the answer is no, if I don't even remember who it is.
Yeah.
But in your writing group, or not your writing group, in your reader group on Facebook, I think sometimes you ask, like, what did I name this person? Or, hey, do you remember
because the Rogue Files was a 7-book series. I didn't document things. I didn't have like a Bible for a series Bible, so this time starting a new series, I tried to be cognizant of like characters I've introduced in descriptions. I at least was in The Duke Goes Down. I don't think I wrote too much. I needed to go back and add notes for The Rake Gets Ravished, because when I hit book 4, I'm going to be like stumped again. Like, wait, who we got? Yeah.
I'm really bad with names. Even in real life, I rename people sometimes to like a completely different thing. And when I write, I don't always like name people immediately. I'm just like, yeah, that one.
Oh,
I'll fix it later.
I had a hero unnamed with a question mark through half a book. Like I didn't know, because I could put any kind of name for a placeholder, but as a writer, sometimes that name, even when you plugged it in and you're writing him or her with that name, it doesn't feel right. That's not going to be the final name because it doesn't feel right.
I feel like that happens to parents sometimes. Like you have a name picked out and then your kid is born and you're like, nope, that's not going to work. Like, it's just like, that kid is not that name. Like, sorry.
My daughter is Catherine and we were going to call her Kate. And when she was born, I just kept looking down at her face and it was not right. Like Catherine was right. Kate was not. I could never call her Kate ever. She didn't look like a Kate. It didn't fit. And I
If
like
she doesn't look like a Kate, she's probably not a Katie either.
Oh, definitely
and
not.
that doesn't work either. She doesn't look like a Katie and she doesn't look like a Kate. It didn't work. So she was Catherine, all fully Catherine.
That's so funny. My daughter's the same way. My daughter is Delaney. And in my head, we were always going to call her Lainey. She's not Lainey. She's Delaney. Like there's just not.
My daughter becomes Cat in high school. And it works. She looks like a cat. So it's either Cat or Catherine.
That's funny. Yep. Just one of those things.
I have like 25 names. So that's not true.
You do. You do. In my phone, you have like, I have like all these things written out in my phone for your contact. That's so funny.
I don't know if any of them fit me all the way. Maybe they all fit me a little bit. I don't know.
A little bit. And different people.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, do you have more questions about the book, Marielle, or should we move on to our questions we always ask?
I think we can move on. I've got, okay. I'm like, if I start asking more questions, it's going to be like spoilery and like about random little details.
Okay, so I'll ask the question I always ask, which is, what's your favorite trope to read?
My favorite trope to read, I like, it changes. It does, right? We know as readers it's changed, but I'll say one room, one bed. That's probably one of my favorite. Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah. It can play out in so many different ways. I mean, you know that ultimately where you're headed, you hope, right? But how they get there is the fun part, you know?
Yeah. I do like There's Only One Bed too.
Yeah, that's very fun.
I'm trying to think. Well, my question is, if we were to catch you in the middle of your writing, we were like a fly on the wall, what would we see?
I wish, I bet I have an expression that is very like my deep thought expression. If that's what, you would see, it looks like confusion, which was a horrible thing in college because I would be sitting at my desk. And if I'm intent in what is being taught and said, they would stop and look at me and go, are you with me? Do you understand? And I was like, yes, I understand. I hate my face.
Oh no.
My face betrays me. But no, I think it's mostly at my laptop. I've gone through different things. I've done I'll write on an AlphaSmart, but I've done where I've transcribed and I do Bluetooth and then I go back and I still do that a little. But right now what I'm working on a first draft and it's on my laptop right now with a probably perpetually confused look on my face. Yeah.
Are you always at your desk or do you just take your laptop wherever?
I'm either at my desk, the couch in my office, and at night, my husband will be asleep and I'll have my laptop in the bed with Golden Girls playing.
I was going to ask, because I'm like, I feel like there was a period where Golden Girls was in the background.
Golden Girls is usually in the background. I really like, everyone, it's a comfort show, but it's that whole, just, female friendships,
mm-hmm.
which are found in a lot of my books,
Yeah. Good dialogue too. I mean, they're very like snarky, snappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were really fun. I saw a meme the other day that said something like the Golden Girls were the same age as like the Sex and the City ladies are now. And like with the pictures of them next to each other. And I was like, what?
That's wild. I mean,
oh my God.
It's supposed to be 7 years. And I think it starts with them. Blanche is the youngest. They're all different ages. Supposedly their characters are.
Yeah.
But I think it starts where Blanche is supposed to be like 55 in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, I looked it up because of a project I'm working on, and I had thought like, oh, they're all gonna have to be like 78, and I looked up and I was like, oh no, they're not.
Like mid 50s to early 60s, mm-hmm. and not as old, because Sophie is the oldest at like 80. But yeah, that's kind of interesting because I think we think of them as older because
they were styled older, but I feel like the 80s was that,
it was the 80s. Yeah.
that hair. Oh my God, the funniest. I'll have to send it to y'all. There's the funniest TikTok, hilarious, of like a woman who's like 45, so like my age, and she's in the corner, and in the back is a picture from the 60s, and it's all these women with the, you know, the hair of the 60s, right? The Nancy Reagan hairdo, the, you know,
right.
And they look so old, okay? And that hairdo, that, you know, it was funny because like Elizabeth Taylor at 19 looked 19 and stunning with it, right? But
right.
all these women
But
have
everybody isn't Elizabeth Taylor.
mother still has this haircut, right? You know the one I'm talking about, the one they have, Sophia has on the Golden Girls, right?
Yeah.
So this woman's in the corner of the TikTok going, all these women are my age. And she goes, and this one right here, and it's one that is her age, but looks really haggard. She goes, I don't know if that one had a hard life or what. And then I started thinking, maybe it's the hair. It's the pins and the roller hair.
Right.
So I thought I'd try it and see if and then it flashes to her after she's done it.
She's like, no.
Does she look old?
And before she'd been saying, I just look really good. And these women look haggard and maybe it's the hair. And then it flashes to her with the hair. And she goes, we all look like shit. We just hilarious.
Who decided this hairdo was a good idea?
That hairdo is not good for anyone.
That's so
well,
funny.
I have to say that about some like historical hairstyles too. Like there are some periods where they're like, oh yes, pluck your hairline all the way back, and I'm like, why?
Right. That was in the like late 1700s, right? Where it started so far back.
And like if you had. And so somebody told me the other day, I think it was on Instagram or somewhere, where they had like all these people with their hairline, which I'm very proud. I've got this hairline apparently, but where they're like, how does it feel to be God's favorite if you have this hairline where your hair is like, and I'm like, well, if you lived in the 1600s or early 17, whatever that period was, you'd be plucking your eyebrows you'd be plucking your hairline back because it was too much.
Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine that.
Right? So I feel like the people from the Regency were probably with their little like chopped up little like tiny curly cues
bangs and stuff,
probably looking at those paintings from back then being like, oh man.
And you saw everybody like, you know, giving Daphne's hairstyle a hard time, but it was really authentic, right? Like in Bridgerton, that was pretty authentic.
The like baby bangs.
I mean, how many junior high girls had that on accident?
Oh yeah. You cut them yourself and you're like, oops, it'll grow back.
I'm a Regency era Daphne now.
When I was this was very early in high school, I went to get a haircut and this lady washed my hair, and while it was soaking wet, she straightened it all the way out and cut bangs on me.
They like up to here.
It was these tiny little like,
oh no.
And it was like I have like the whole era of pictures where I'm like, I have like a clip and like poof, and my hair is terrible.
That's so sad. I can't believe you would do that.
Well, I remember thinking like, oh no, it's too late.
And I saw somebody with curly hair. She's a book blogger from Australia, and the redhead, she's adorable.
Oh yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
She
has really curly hair, and she showed him a hairstyle she wanted, and she went. It wasn't quite the same, but it still looked good, I thought. But what she was saying, like, I think if you have curly hair, you have to have a hairstylist that knows how to cut her curly hair. Like, it's different, right?
Yeah.
That has the experience, at least.
It kind of depends how curly it is too, I feel like. Because like you have a lot of wave to your hair.
Yeah.
But I think if someone like, it wouldn't be, my hair's weird. If you cut layers in it wrong, it like will like make a step.
And it's like a triangle.
Right.
No, I had somebody cut layers in my hair one time, and at the back of my head there was like, it was like a lump. It just went.
Oh no.
And I was like, thanks guys. Now I'll have to wait however long to
X amount of
this.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Oh my gosh. So
heroine with hair like yours, Marielle, that's gorgeous. Like, but it definitely requires knowing it and skill, like how to manage, not just how to cut it, style it, you know, all of that. So I could see her having a very like Mrs. Bennett type mother who tries to make her hair one way, has, you know, the maid with the iron trying to straighten it all day and burning her and burning hair.
Oh gosh.
So my mom and my aunt have hair that like maybe a little more curly than yours, but not too terribly much. So they can like brush it and it just goes wavy. But if they like put gel in it or something, then it's kind of curly.
Yeah.
And my aunt thought she could just like brush the curl out of my hair. And I was like, she goes, well, she was like, no, just let me try it. I remember we had gone to visit her over like a winter break, maybe, or yeah. So I was like, sure thing. She got halfway through and I think she realized her mistake. She was like, maybe a French braid. I was like, okay, sure. Because it just, the more you brush it, the more it just gets like bigger and bigger, and then it gets harder to pull. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's my hair is very like a good haircut. Find the right product, and then don't touch it. Let it do what it wants.
That's what my son is, the one with curly hair, and it's the same thing. I've told him after he gets out of the shower, like brush it out of the shower, put a little whatever in it, and then you don't touch it again. He knows this. He's a boy and he knows this. Yeah.
Yeah. Just leave it alone. It'll do its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sophie, if you want, you can tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. I know you said book 2 is about to come out in ARC form, so that means you must be.
Yeah. I am starting the 3rd. Oh wait, we did just finalize the title, but I don't know if I can say it yet. It was really difficult. I had one title I submitted. That's it.
Oh.
Thankfully, they all jumped on it because I feel like there's a style of title that I've started with The Duke Goes Down. The Rake Gets Ravished.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted something, you know, they're kind of an action title, but they're also with like, I mean, sort of like the verb on the end, the action in the middle, you know, like, so it like the to do whatever verb action happening in the middle, start with the subject, right? The noun, like the rake.
Right.
So, I mean, I like went through my mind, I brainstormed with other people. And so
you're like, this is all I got. I hope you like
it, guys. It's the best and it fits the storyline. So with My Lady Blacksmith. So you do get like a sneak.
Is it something about being hammered? No.
No. We had some, oh my God, this will entertain y'all if I can find the inappropriate ones. I think I had like the scoundrel gets pounded or like, we had some really inappropriate ones that were so making me laugh. You know, I was like, the lady gets, basically.
That's awesome.
You know, like
I love it.
I was avoiding the gets in the middle because I had it with the second one. So I was looking for a different type of action in the middle. So yeah, I think we succeeded, but
awesome.
Oh, I'm excited to see what it is.
Yeah,
Me too. I'm very excited about the Lady Blacksmith. That's awesome.
The pattern, and I'm excited about her. She is in, I have to, you know, I'm like, okay, I got to remind everybody about her. I got to show her in The Rake Gets Ravished. So she does make a cameo in The Rake Gets Ravished.
Mm-hmm.
And in the epilogue, something happens to her that is mentioned in the epilogue. It just fit in pretty organically and smoothly where I could bring her up and mention her in the epilogue when, you know, the hero and the heroine are together and happy and everything.
Right.
So everybody will be really ready for the Lady Blacksmith spec. So that's, you know, I'm starting, I kind of know the starting point for the whole thing. It's you know, her storyline kind of has to do with the Duke storyline. Cause like I said, that's being fed through. It's really like difficult. I don't want to give away anything as I'm sitting here talking about it, you know? So, I
mean, we can stop recording and then you can tell us
everything. I'll tell you the title when we stop recording. I'll tell you. Everyone's like, no! No, so in her story, I mean, this was her father's business and her uncle, the blacksmith, was a family business. And so either through book in The Duke Goes Down, but also in The Rake Gets Ravished, her father's passed on and now it's just her uncle, but her uncle is pretty infirm, so she's running
Right.
this blacksmith business herself, the smithy herself, while tending to the uncle who is infirm, and she's, you know,
It's a lot of jobs.
well and successful, but a pretty beleaguered. It's all on her shoulders, and circumstances will change and you got to have their circumstances change. If everything's going pretty okay in their life, when their book comes around, it's not, because then there's no conflict, right? So you gotta shake up the world and give them conflict to sustain this story. So I'm excited a lot about her story.
Awesome.
It's going to begin kind of like with a bang opening, sort of like reminiscent of The Duke Buys a Bride. Has a hint.
Oh.
It's a maybe, in reverse.
What?
I told her that I probably should. That's all I'm going to say. I'll let y'all think about that.
Yay.
You could send me pages anytime. I'm very excited about this, actually.
Well, we enjoyed reading the book. We hope everyone else did too. Thank you so much, Sophie, for being here this month. And when you guys see this on Saturday, Sophie will be taking over our page that day. So you can come and ask her whatever little questions you have about the story. And maybe she'll give you the answers.
I know. As I'm like sitting here, it's like I'm walking through a minefield of trying not to spoil.
You did very well.
If you were in the Marvel universe,
yeah,
how likely would you be to get in trouble for spoiling? Are you Mark Ruffalo? Are you, what's the other one that always spoils stuff? Is Spider-Man. Tom, what's his name?
Is Mark Ruffalo got a big mouth?
So this is a story I know about Mark Ruffalo getting in trouble. He does spoil things sometimes, but he was asked to do like a Instagram live or Facebook live or something like that. Like at one of the
cons,
whatever the party, whatever party is,
like
they like do the very first premiere. And he put the phone in his pocket and went when the movie started. And then his phone started blowing up, and he was like, "I'm not going to answer this because, of course, like how rude! I'm not going to answer the phone during a movie." And then someone came down and was like, "You're
phone is
streaming
live
on the internet. Like you're giving away the entire movie." And so he got like in big trouble. But then it turned out that people, like a lot of people, were watching it. Like anyway, it turned out fine. But fine. Yeah.
Wow. That was an accident, but still, oh my gosh, that would probably, no, I'm afraid I say more than I intend anyway, right? Like, I think if I was like bad about keeping things in, I maybe would just be one of those people who are like, I need to stay off all social. Like, I can't handle the stress of not revealing, I mean, think about those franchises that were like, it was so important that you not reveal stuff, like the Hunger Games and I mean, I think I would have been a mess. Like, what am I going to, no, The Walking Dead, because they never got the script till they showed up.
That's right. They weren't even allowed to know.
They didn't even know if their characters were going to die till they showed up. But then they knew and they filmed it and they had to not reveal. That would have been super challenging.
For me too, definitely.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to, this Saturday. I thought, who did I watch? Was it Bethany that y'all had? Bethany Bennett? It's such a great job. I feel like I have a lot to live up to.
It'll be really fun.
Yes, it will be. Thank you so much again. And everybody, we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Thanks.